Automation used to mean something simple. Take a repetitive task, get a machine to do it, and then let the human move on to something better. But now information is evolving. It's not just filling in fields, it's not just routing, it's not just sending alerts. It's starting to connect systems, interpret events, recommend actions, and quietly reshape how public safety work gets done. And that's where things start to get interesting, because public safety automation is not about replacing people. At least it better not be. It's about helping people who are already overloaded, under pressure, and expected to make life safety decisions, while 17 systems are blinking at them like a Christmas tree with unresolved childhood trauma. So today we're talking about the automation evolution, where automation helps, where it can hurt, and why the human still has to remain firmly in the loop. Because the future is not automated or human, the future is automated and human. And if we get that wrong, we don't get efficiency, we just get faster failure. That's what's coming up next on TiPS Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch, I'm an NINA certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes controversial takes on emergency communications. Today I want to talk about not just AI, but intelligent automation. And before anyone starts yelling at their speaker, let me say this right up front. Yeah, I know, automation isn't new. The world, including public safety, has been using automation for decades. Computer-aided dispatch automated pieces of call handling and resource management. Annie and Allie updated number and location delivery. Finally, mapping automation has made what used to be a very manual process of figuring out where something was happening visually efficient. Protocols, timers, paging systems, status updates, CAD interfaces, alarm feeds, radio logs, record systems, and all the little things that happen in the background every day. That's all automation. So when a vendor walks into a room and says, "We're bringing automation to public safety," yeah, that's when I usually take one cautious step backward and start looking for the nearest exit. Because what they often mean is, "Our company just discovered your industry last Tuesday. And boy, do we have a slide deck for you." Yeah, okay, right, but automation is evolving. Artificial intelligence is migrating us from simple task automation to workflow automation. And workflow automation leads to decision support. And decision support allows coordination of system behavior. And now with AI intelligence supporting data integration, sensor feeds, NG911, cloud platforms, and connected systems, automation is starting to look a lot less like macros and a lot more like an operational partner. But that doesn't mean it's ready to be trusted blindly. But what is true is that we need to understand it. Because if we understand it, we'll know best when to trust it. And that's because public safety can't afford to be afraid of automation. But public safety also can't afford to worship it. Both of those are very bad plans. Automation is not the enemy. Let's start out with the basic truth. Automation is not the enemy. Bad automation is the enemy. Good automation can remove friction, but bad automation hides responsibility. And while good automation reduces repetitive work, bad automation creates silent assumptions. While good automation gives the call taker, dispatcher, supervisor, responder, or emergency manager much better situational awareness, bad automation just moves confusion from one screen to another and then calls it modernization. And yeah, we've all seen it. A system automatically sends an alert, but nobody knows who is supposed to act on it. A platform automatically generates a recommendation, but nobody knows what data that it used. And a dashboard automatically lights up like a slot machine, but the person sitting in front of it still has to figure out what matters. Yeah, that's not helpful automation. That's just digital confetti. Automation needs to make the mission cleaner. It shouldn't make the human work harder just to understand what the machine thinks that it did. And that's especially true in the ECC. A call taker doesn't need 20 more things that are screaming for attention, and a dispatcher doesn't need a system that proudly announces something obvious 5 seconds after they already figured it out themselves. And a supervisor doesn't need another dashboard that says, "Critical alert," without explaining whether critical means building on fire or printer low on toner. You see, the goal is not to automate everything. The goal is to automate the right things in the right way, using the right safeguards, so the human has more capacity to do that work that only a human can do. Things like listen, interpret, prioritize, clarify, decide, calm the caller, coordinate the response, and recognize when the situation doesn't match the data. That's the human part. And inside of public safety, the human part isn't optional. From tasks to workflows. The first stage of automation is pretty much simple. It's task automation. Fill in the field, trigger a notification, send a page, start a timer, route a message, populate an address, attach a record. You see, that type of automation is useful assistance. It saves times, reduces typing, helps with consistency, and in a lot of cases, helps prevent some errors. But task automation is only the beginning. The real evolution is workflow automation. That's agentic AI, and that's where one action triggers a coordinated sequence of other actions. A 911 call comes in. Location gets validated. Relevant premise information automatically appears. Known hazards get attached. Responder access instructions are surfaced. And a floor plan gets queued. And if the call meets certain risk criteria, a supervisor gets alerted. You see, that's not just automation, that's actually orchestration. And orchestration is where public safety has got to pay extremely close attention. Because once systems start working together, errors can multiply. Bad addresses can travel quickly. Bad assumptions can suddenly become operational truth. And that's how false alarms can trigger a real response. And that mislabeled data source can totally influence a decision. Sure, automation makes good processes much faster, but unfortunately it also makes bad processes faster as well. And that's the part that vendors sometimes forget to mention. They like to say things like, "Our platform accelerates response." Great. Does it accelerate the correct response? Because those two things aren't the same thing. A shopping cart that's rolling downhill is also accelerating. But that doesn't mean it's got a strategy. Yeah, in public safety, speed matters, but speed without validation is just confidence wearing running shoes. Automation versus autonomy. This is the point where we need to separate two words that often get blended together: automation and autonomy. Automation means the system performs a defined task under very defined rules. Autonomy means a system makes decisions and gets to act with limited or no human involvement. Those are definitely not the same thing. A system that automatically pulls up known building hazards when a call comes from a specific location, yeah, that's automation. A system that recommends additional resources based on call type, incident history, weather, occupancy, and responder availability, that is decision support. And a system that automatically dispatches specialized resources without any human review because its model says the incident looks serious. That's where we start to cross the line into autonomy. And I'll be honest with you, that's where my eyebrows start doing aerobics. Now, there are places where autonomy makes a lot of sense. Network failure conditions, cybersecurity containment, sensor activations, redundant routing, automatic logging. But when we start getting close to life safety decisions, we need to start to slow down and start asking some adult questions. Like who approved the rules and who validated the data and who tested the failure modes? And does anybody monitor the automation? And if it starts to get a little wonky, who can override it? And at the end of the day, who's accountable if it causes harm? And then my favorite question of all time is, does the person using it actually understand what it did? Because if the answer to that is no, then we've got a huge problem. Automation shouldn't create mystery. If a system changes a priority level, recommends a resource, or suppresses an alert, or if it escalates an event or routes information differently, the human in the loop should be able to understand why, and not in a 47-page technical appendix. Not in a log file that requires 3 engineers, a priest, and someone who still remembers Solaris command lines. No, in plain operational terms, why'd the system do that? And if you can't explain it to the people who have to trust it, it's a good indicator that you shouldn't deploy it, especially into a life safety workflow just yet. Reality check. Automated does not mean correct. Here's the trap. Automation can create the illusion that a process is under control. You see, the screen looks calm. The workflow appears complete and the alert was sent. A form was filled. A box turns green. The system says everything is fine. And that may be true. Or it may be the automation equivalent of putting a blanket over the pothole. It might look a lot better, but it's still a hole. And this is one of the biggest risks in modern public safety technology. You see, automation can hide complexity. And when complexity gets hidden, people may stop questioning it. Call takers may assume the location is verified simply because the field's populated. A dispatcher may assume the notification was received because the system said it was sent. And a responder may assume the building data is correct because it appeared automatically. But you can't let populated mean it was verified. Sent doesn't mean received, and displayed doesn't mean current, and automated doesn't mean correct. And that may be the most important sentence in this entire episode. Automated does not mean correct, because automation needs validation. It needs audit trails. It needs exception handling. It needs human readable explanations, and it needs testing under the ugly conditions. Not just sunny day, not when everything else works great, and certainly not during the demo, or not in the conference room where the Wi-Fi is strong, the coffee's hot, and everybody's nodding like they understand the API diagram. Yeah, right. Because if your automation only works when everything else works, that's not public safety. That's just a product demo. The bottom line, automation should serve the mission. Look, the automation evolution is real. We're quickly moving from simple task automation to intelligent workflow support. Now that can be incredibly valuable for public safety. It can reduce or eliminate repetitive work. It can surface critical information much faster. It helps manage complexities. And all of that supports better decision making. That gives overloaded humans a fighting chance in an increasingly complicated operating environment. But only and only if we remember the point. Automation needs to serve the mission. It doesn't replace judgment. It should not hide uncertainty. And you can't let it create false confidence. It should not make the human a passive passenger in a system that they just don't understand. And it definitely shouldn't automate a broken process and then act all surprised when the process starts to break faster. Now, the goal is not to remove people from public safety. The goal is to give public safety professionals better tools, better timing, better context, and less unnecessary friction. Because when the call comes in, the technology matters, the workflow matters, the data matters, and the automation matters. But what still matters the most is the human, that person under the headset, the dispatcher managing the chaos and the supervisor watching the bigger picture. And that includes the responder that's stepping out into the scene, because automation can support all of that. But it's got to be designed, governed, tested, and trusted for the right reasons. So yeah, absolutely. Let automation evolve. Bring AI into the center, but don't let it evolve without us. Because public safety doesn't need a future where machines replace human judgment. You want a little culture shock? Go look up a movie called Demolition Man from 1995, and then tell me you're not a little scared. We need a future where machines help protect human judgment from getting buried under the noise, repetition, and complexities in public safety. That's the automation revolution that's absolutely worth building. That wraps up today's episode of TiPS Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. This is Fletch. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Hey, it's Fletch. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you learned something new. Remember to catch all of my previous episodes of TiPS Today in Public Safety, published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on most social media platforms and streaming 24/7 at 911tips.com. My blogs are located at Fletch.tv, and my professional website is at Fletch911.com. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps out the algorithms. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to TiPS Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.